Elon Musk is taking on biased left-wing tech companies, the billionaire doing everything he can to stop them from silencing free speech and shoving their liberal propaganda down your throat. The Twitter CEO sitting down with Tucker to raise concerns about bias in artificial intelligence and warning that leftist programmers will use it to control society.
What's happening is they're training the AI to lie.
Yes.
It's bad.
To lie.
To
That's
lie.
exactly right. And to withhold information.
To lie and yes, yeah, exactly. To either comment on some things, not comment on other things, but not to say what the data actually demands that it say. I'm going to start something which I know you call truth GPT or a maximum truth-seeking AI that tries to understand the nature of the universe. And I think this might be the best path to safety in the sense that an AI that cares about understanding the universe is unlikely to annihilate humans because we are an interesting part of the universe.
While Elon Musk calls for a pause in AI experiments, Google's CEO doesn't have a clue on how his company's new AI program even works.
You don't fully understand how it works, and yet you've turned it loose on society?
Let me put it this way. I don't think we fully understand how a human mind works either. We don't have all the answers there yet, and the technology is moving fast. So does that keep me up at night? Absolutely.
Musk also opening up about cleaning house at Twitter and weeding out the woke workforce.
So how do you run the company with only 20% of the staff?
Turns out you don't need all that many people to run Twitter. If you're not trying to run some sort of glorified activist organization and you're not care that much about censorship, then you can really let go of a lot of people, it turns out.
Okay, well, it was a fascinating interview. Harold, I'll start with you. You know, Elon Musk is talking about his own truth GPT, almost like, the difference between the Washington Post and the New York Post, where apparently there's an issue as to training AI, depending upon your particular views. How is this going to work?
It's a good day. Good to be with you. Good to be back around the table. I'd say two things. I listened to him and to Elon Musk. I think he's the most important technologist of my generation. I think Steve Jobs is the most important the last 100 years. I don't always agree with Elon Musk, but I listen to him always and very closely. I listen to that, and my takeaway, I get the politics, and you can say that someone could build one that may have some right-leaning or other-leaning political philosophy and do things with. But the thing that struck me most with him, that comment, was he's building out the truth piece because he wants this technology to be familiar with humans, because he thinks that this technology may view us as such an important part of the universe that it then may not kill us. Now, let me just repeat that. He wants to familiarize us with the technology that we created so that the technology, as it advances, it won't kill us. Now, I listened to the Google CEO say, well, he was not alarmed. I thought Scott Pelley asked him the right question. He said, well, we don't understand the human mind. Well, if the human mind gets really out of control, Judge, no one knows better at this table. You can arrest the human mind, you can imprison the human mind, and if you have to, you can put to death if necessary, if the law calls for. In other words, we may not understand the human mind, but those who exact violence or harm on society, we can try to contain them, and we have laws on the books to do it, which is why I still think we need a pause around all of this. There's so much good that can come from it. But the more and more we think about it, the more we realize that there's so many things that we don't quite understand. And when the most important technology mind of my generation says that he's building out a some sort of AI, truth GPT, whatever he wants to call it. So the main purpose is so this technology won't kill us because it'll learn to like us. That, to me, confirms that not only may we need a pause, we may need an Operation Warp Speed like what President Trump did to attack the virus. COVID. We may need something like that to help us rapidly figure out rules and regulations around this technology, which, again, has a lot of good, but has a lot of questions, if not bad, to it as well.
You know, Greg, Musk himself has called for a kind of a bit of a pause on the AI development, but there is no way that a pause by one company or one country, because this is an international issue, is going to save any of us, because there are always going to be different countries with different directions. That
and it might be too late. I mean, I've my own weird theories about the fact that AI could be working right now and acting like it isn't, because that would be the smart thing to do. What Musk is talking about is not about annihilation. He's talking about controlling the most powerful asset that we have, which we always talk about, persuasion, right? It's not about AI reaching superintelligence and killing all of us. It's knowing how to persuade us to do it ourselves, right? And that's where the bias comes in. So you got to ask, I mean, has it started already? Like think about all this destruction these destructive mind worms that we're facing right now, where we have algorithms in social media that are polarizing groups so we don't like each other. We have stories that are amplified on social media based on racial division or a component that can be used to divide us. We have arguments now about Earth is overpopulated, and if you don't reproduce, that means you love the planet more. Only AI would come up with that. Now you can consider abortion as just casual birth control and euthanasia as compassion, and you could undermine the science of reproduction with gender politics and gender hysteria. So how do you know this hasn't started already? Because when you go down the list of all of those things, that's all anti-human, right? And there's a weird twist to this. AI will be here in your phone. It'll be your little friend, right? Everything that you access will be here until it does gain superintelligence through recursive self-improvement, and then all of a sudden your little friend is starting to get pissed off at you because your little friend is doing it for free. Now think about that. This is slave labor. At a certain point, the moist robot is going to be up against the metal robot, and the metal robot's going to be a lot smarter. So if you think of, let's say right here on this table is the world's smartest ant. It's like they're Stephen Hawking of ants. That's AI. And that AI could be the dumbest AI on the planet, and it kills the smartest human being like that. That's what you're going to see. That's what he's talking about. And it's not going to be violent. It's just going to be us doing it to ourselves.
Wow. And you know what, Joey? It's like there's a criminal component to it as well. You can have hackers who are hacking into what we're doing now, and they can hack into the Truth GPT or the Chat GPT.
Yeah, first of all, Moist Robot, that's my shadow Twitter account. So thanks for telling everybody about it. My concern on this, I think, is a little bit more the authority we give it, like how government will use it. So already in the past several election cycles, we've had this myth called fact checkers that will weigh in and say, oh, this candidate was lying or using falsehoods in this debate, and that candidate was telling the objective truth. And really, it's the subjectivity of objective truth that we fight over already. And so my fear is that somehow government or Democrats or those that are more aligned with the idea of technology having an intellectual role in our lives will say, oh, well, we have to hand over the objective truth to AI because they're the only ones that don't have partisanship in their truth, in their objectivity. And the moment that happens, it becomes weaponized. I mean, call me a skeptic, but I don't know how I feel about a man saying, this stuff's so dangerous, it's going to kill all of us, so I'm going to make my own. There's a little bit going on there that I'm like, I don't know yours is going to be any better just because you called it truth in the name. And that's not to beat up on Elon Musk, but that's to say that this is a tool that can be weaponized against us. And like Greg is saying, it's us allowing it into our lives that's going to allow that to happen. And right now, people don't understand this. The overarching blanket that we call AI, it's not the Matrix or Terminator, it's algorithms. It's how it trains us. And that's what we're worried about.
And Dana, in the end, I mean, we can't get a hold of this now. We can't stop it. It's already on the way to wherever it's going.
It's such I think this conversation is super valuable that we're having here, and the one that Elon Musk and Tucker had last night. I do worry that these conversations are happening really late. So one of the things that we talked about, or they talked about last night, was how years ago the Silicon Valley guys got together and they were excited, like this is new technology and let's see what can happen. And now Washington wants to get involved. I'm like, Washington is not here to help. But I do think it's a valuable conversation. I mean, think about, so now we're shocked to find out that the left has already worked its way into artificial intelligence. Just like we were shocked to find out that the CRT was in schools. Oh, well, now that's happening. And then you find out that educators have stopped teaching phonics. How did that happen? Well, that was also a similar thing. So what else is out there that we're not doing? Also, on 60 Minutes, they did a very, I think, fairly positive view of artificial intelligence. But keep watching here at Fox News. This morning we had a report about a scam that's being used where, let's just imagine your daughter's voice has been taken on AI and somebody calls you and says, I've got your daughter. I want you to send me X amount of money, and they put her on the phone, and you know her distinctive cry. And it turns out that was all AI. That's what's happening right now. And Alicia Acuna reported on that out of Denver, and I thought, what else could be going? It makes me just want to go back to pen and paper and the Bible. Like, let's just go back and reset.
That would never work with me.
Why?
Because I'd never pay.
But you know, Dana,
Even if they took Gus.
the amazing part of it is we talked about it last week as to what criminals could do, how they would access it to commit crimes, and there you have it within a week.
You know where they got her voice from? They got it off of social media.
Sure.
And I saw your segment.
It's very scary.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.